That's honest.
That's funny. Something relatable. Gotta be entertaining.
I want a radio show that makes a difference.
Welcome to the Derrick Ashong Experience.
Get involved.
The phone number.
866-OPRA-XM.
Twitter and Facebook.
Search Oprah Radio.
Streaming live online.
At Oprah.com.
And broadcasting now.
On Sirius 195 and XM 156.
This is the Derrick Ashong Experience.
That's right, y'all. This is the Derrick Ashong Experience. We are back. It is Saturday, March 27th, 2010, and healthcare reform has passed in the United States of America. Yo, this is a historic week, y'all. And I know it's one that has got a lot of people feeling some kind of way. Some folks are ecstatic. They are over the moon. It's like, oh, my God, we can't believe that we finally got there. Then there's a whole lot of other folks that are like, hell no. How can this happen? Don't know what is going on inside of them. And it's caused a lot of very, very strong emotion. I gotta say, I feel very clearly that this is history that has just been made. And I think that ultimately we're going to look back on the reform that passed this week, and we're going to say, you know what? This was one of those pivotal moments, like when we came up with or we passed Social Security, like when we passed Medicare. This is one of those moments that helped to define a nation, that said that America would not be the only developed country on the planet that didn't believe that its citizens had a right to health care. Folks are saying left and right that this is going to change the face of the nation. I believe that it will, and I believe that it will change the face of the nation for the better. And there are a bunch of different issues and ideas that come to pass here, and we're going to cover a few of them today. We're going to talk about the nature of the reform itself, why it matters to me, why it should matter to you. We want to hear from those who feel good about it. We want to hear from those who don't feel so great about it. I want to hear from you if you think I'm confused. I was beefing on Twitter yesterday because I heard a couple of so-called progressives on Bill Moyer's show on PBS talking about how, well, you know, the healthcare reform, yes, it's historic. It's glad that it passed, but it's not enough, and we should have had more, and it should have gone further, and there's these problems with it and those problems with it, and there's problems upon problems upon problems. And I'm like, yo, you guys are just as bad as the other side. Look, folks, I personally am highly anti-fundamentalist. I'm not really excited about the whole fundamentalism thing, you know, and I don't really care which side of the coin you wind up on. Because when you have people who are so convinced in the rectitude of their own opinion, that they are so righteous in wherever their stance might be that they cannot possibly be swayed, what's the point of talking to them? I mean, seriously, how can we have a conversation if you already know you're right? If you can't accept the possibility that there might be another way of seeing things, or even if you do not need to agree, that it might be worth hearing what the other side has got to say. So I'm listening to these cats. One of them is this dude Nichols, who writes for The Nation. Yeah, you know The Nation, just a straight dope. It's a reliably liberal magazine. They were all up in Bush's goodies for 8 years, and now they're getting on Obama, apparently, for making history, because this gentleman believes that it wasn't sweeping enough. It's a giveaway to the insurance companies. It's a giveaway to the insurance companies. It's not making the change that we can believe in. It's not what he promised. It's problem. Then you have this other lady. I'm forgetting her name, but she is the president of NOW, the National Organization for Women. And it was almost like she came in with the talking points that were made on the flip side of the photocopy of what the Republicans had to say. And her entire conversation was about the abortion language. And this is a bill that is not good for women because for the first time it makes it so that poor women have to pay for their own abortions. And that this is something that should be covered under the law. And that if not for that provision, then the law is just no good. And Bill Moyers would say, well, but guys, like, 30 million people are covered. Well, yeah. I mean, that's great. 30 million people have insurance. But I'm telling you, it's a terrible thing. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys must be bugging. You guys must be bugging. Don't you know what happened here? Didn't you guys hear what the vice president had to say? Can we please get clip number 8? Do y'all hear that? Wait. Y'all might have missed it. Or y'all might have missed that. Can we get number 8 one more time? You see what I'm saying? The vice president said that this is a big bleeping deal. I didn't understand the bleep. I don't know even how he made that sound with his mouth. I tried to do it. I'm like, this is a big beep. I don't know. Maybe because I've got a basso voice. You need a more soprano. I can't quite get it up to that register. But he said, this is a big bleeping deal. Yo, progressives, this is a big bleeping deal. Jump up off of Bill Moyers and stop beefing. This is one of the things that is so fascinating to me about how these conversations wind up. I mean, we're talking about an historic change that has been highly controversial. People are not in agreement on this one, right? They're not in agreement. They're all coming from one side to the next. We don't quite know how, if it was even going to be possible to do it. And yet and still, folks will find one way or another to be unhappy. I want to know what you guys think. Healthcare has passed. I want to know how this is going to affect you personally. Is it going to be good for your life? Are you a person who doesn't have insurance, who may have the opportunity to get insurance now? Is it going to affect your children? Are you a person who doesn't like the reform? You know we keep an open forum here. Can you call and explain to me why Derrick is crazy for thinking this is a good thing? Are you afraid or maybe confused? You don't know what this is all about and how it's going to affect you. 866-677-2496. That's 866-OPRAH-XM. 866-677-2496. Call me now. What do you think about healthcare? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Are you still confused about all the noise? Holla at your boy. Also, we're live online. You can holler at us at Twitter, twitter.com/Ashong. And the hashtag for this conversation is hash, also known as that pound or number sign, the DNA X. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Derrick Ashong Experience, and ustream.tv/Derrick Ashong Experience. We want to hear from you. Is healthcare a good thing? Is healthcare bad? Are you confused? 866-677-2496. Hit me up. Now, the vice president told us that this is a big deal. It's a big deal, and something has got, we've got to be willing to acknowledge that much, right? And the fact of the matter is, I personally would have to agree. I think that it's something that has got to be a priority. We're hearing on Twitter, @Biz2 says, taking care of people should always be a priority. Canada's healthcare works. @Biz2, hit us back. Are you Canadian or are you American? And if you're Canadian, what makes it work better? And if you're American, what do you wish we had? Or what do you think is good or bad about what we just got? It's important stuff, y'all. I think that it's true that the healthcare reform is a big enough deal that we should all be aware of it. We should all be thinking about and considering its implications. I feel, though, that the conversation has largely been hijacked by people who have wound up on the fringes of things. And you've got those who are extra beefy because they didn't quite get their way. And the irony is you find them on the left and you find them on the right. It's almost as if they believe that it's got to be one way or it can't be good. It's our way or the highway. And if I didn't get everything that I wanted, if I didn't get everything that I was looking for, then somehow this must be problematic. But let's take a step back for a minute and just think about how the world really works. We're talking about legislation. And legislation means you get a bunch of people together in a room and they've got to vote on whether or not they believe that what we're about to do is right for the nation. And not only if what we want to do is right, but how we should go about it. By its very nature, we're talking about the art of compromise. There's no way to make this happen without being willing to give up a little bit of something. Now, I can understand why the Republicans are pissed off. The Republicans are mad because they stake their entire political world and possibility and future on the argument that this is not going to work, that this is a bad thing, and that we need to make sure that it doesn't pass because it will be the death of the president's agenda. That's what they were thinking about. And I believe that we've got a quote from the minority leader in the House. Can we get clip number 9? This is John Boehner talking about how we failed America.
We have failed to listen to America, and we have failed to reflect the will of our constituents. And look at how this bill was written. Can you say it was done openly? With transparency and accountability? Without backroom deals and struck behind closed doors? Hidden from the people? Hell no, you can't!
Hell no, you can't! Backroom deals hidden from the people. I'm telling you, yo, my man is angry. He's talking about backroom deals. Y'all know Republicans don't get down like that. They don't even have back rooms. They just do it in the front room, just so you know that they don't occur. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. My GOP peeps, don't get mad at me, but I'm saying I'm happy about this today. Dawn, I see you are on the line, 866-677-2496. Call me and let me know what you think. Dawn, you're on the air. What are your thoughts on it?
Hey, Derrick. I think it's great. I'm so happy and proud that our president can do this. My bigger fear, though, is that a lot of these large companies are going to start pulling out and taking benefits away from the people that have them now. And so it's almost like they're going to try to force his hand in changing this whole thing up for us. Because if they take away the benefits of the people that they're already employing, then I'm just curious how it's going to all fall into place. I mean, I know a couple of businesses already have stated that that's what they're going to do. So
this is an
I don't know. What do we do?
Well, this is a powerful point, Dawn, and I want to get into it a little more with you because people have been asking this question a lot. So, are you concerned that the insurance companies are going to start cutting the amount of coverage that they give to people, or are you concerned that people's employers, that the folks they work for, are going to start saying, "Okay, we're not going to cover you anymore"?
That's it. The second one. A couple of companies have already said they'd rather take the penalty, even if it's in the $1 million, billion-dollar mark, than pay their people and then pay for the insurance coverage.
Okay, I think this is a great point, you guys. So Dawn has just brought up the question. She feels like healthcare reform is a good thing, but what about those companies that are like, yo, forget about it. We'd rather pay the penalty than cover these folks. All right, I have a couple of thoughts on that. First, this is one of the reasons why I've been advocating that the way the president approached this reform is good and that it's better than them having gone to a single-payer system. Now, for those that don't know, a single-payer system is what they've got in Canada, it's what they've got in the United Kingdom, and it's what they've got in Costa Rica, which is very important to remember because Rush Limbaugh is going to be moving there. Now that healthcare reform is passed, the man said he's leaving the country, so he's going for straight socialized medicine. Single payer means that the government is the party of record. They are the people that are going to cover healthcare and expenses, and it basically gets rid of the private insurance system. Now, there are a couple of very interesting things that happen with that, which I want to get into in a sec, but I want to make sure that we get you guys jumping into the dialogue. So remember, we want to hear your thoughts. 866-677-2496. Is healthcare a good thing? Is healthcare a bad thing? And are you confused? Or are you worried? Or are you concerned? Now, part of the thing that Dawn has raised is that, well, if you have this system where the government is now reformed the healthcare model, will companies say it is more to my benefit to just pay the penalties rather than insure my folks? And what I was about to say is that this is why it's good that they started with market-based reforms. Don't let anybody fool you, you guys. This is not socialized medicine. I don't even know if people understand what socialism is anymore. And maybe we'll get into that in a later conversation, or you can tweet me or Facebook me if you want to hear that now, and I'll answer. But the fact of the matter is, in a nutshell, socialism is when the government has got a very strong stake in making policy, not just policy, but basically things that would normally happen in the marketplace, they are now being addressed in the government. Well, what's happening here is they're making a market-based reform, right? They're making a market-based reform, which means that they're keeping the insurance system alive. Now, a lot of people don't like the insurance system. They think that we should punish these companies. I understand, folks, but remember, there are real people that work there. And as much as we don't like the way they've been acting, these are people who are a part of our society. It might be worth considering if we can get them to be more productive parts rather than just eliminating them. Dawn, here's my thing. If an employer at this point says that I do not want to cover my employees and I'm willing to take the hit, first of all, the likelihood is that is an employer that wasn't going to cover the employees anyway, right? If somebody is already saying, I can afford to cover you, and now what's happening is the government is saying we're going to embark upon these reforms that are going to wind up bringing down the cost of health insurance, that's good for the company. The government is for the first time saying they're going to subsidize the cost of people who don't otherwise have care. That's good for the company. The government is also saying we are going to make it so that people who have pre-existing conditions cannot be kicked off of the rolls. And in order to make that work, we're going to mandate that everyone has coverage so that you don't wind up just having, a bunch of sick people in the pool, but you got sick and healthy people. Well, tons of folks are finding their healthcare premiums go up, and small businesses finding their premiums going up because you have somebody get sick at the office, and they're like, oh, well, this is a sicker pool. We're going to raise it. We're going to raise your rates. The value of the individual mandate is it means that now you've got more people in there. So the government can legislate, they can mandate that the insurance industry cannot kick you off, and they cannot raise or jack up your rates without federal oversight. The government can now step in and say, no, what you're doing is anti-competitive and we will not allow it. So my argument is that it's actually going to be easier for more businesses to provide healthcare than ever before. One of the things that launches this year in the healthcare reform is a tax credit for small businesses. This means that thousands of small businesses across the country are going to have the opportunity to expand the coverage they provide to individuals. So I would argue that the likelihood is people who weren't going to provide it wouldn't provide it anyway. And if they want to take the hit, that's just how they are. But that you're going to see more businesses start to do it. And because it's a market-based reform, you're going to have insurance companies starting to change their practices in order to figure out how they can continue to serve a populace that's got at least a little more of an empowered response that can say, no, we don't want this, and we can try something new. We don't know what's going to happen yet because, like any piece of legislation, you got to see how it plays out. But I believe that this is going to work, and I believe it's going to be good. Mike Joan Ali is on Facebook asking, what's the number of the radio station he wants to call? Well, Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, it is 866-OPRA-XM, 866-677-2496. And what we want to know from you is what you think of the healthcare reform. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How does it affect your life? Do you know if this is going to touch you personally? Are you a person who doesn't have insurance today? Do you think that this might help you get insurance? Are you a person who has insurance today and are afraid you might lose your insurance? I want to hear your thoughts. 866-677-2496. That's 866-677-2496. We're live on air. Now we got some folks jumping up on Ustream. Illusion22 says, I am single, employed, healthy, get health benefits from my employer, pay my taxes, have no debt. How will this new healthcare bill affect me? Thank you. Illusion22, you are brilliant. In a nutshell, this plan will basically not affect you at all initially because you're already at a job, you're already healthy, and your employer is covering your expenses. Nothing's going to happen. Your employer is not going to drop you. Then the government is not going to mandate that you get insurance. You are basically all set. The way you're living your life is perfect. But Illusion22, how this may affect you over the long run is as we start to have more people in this risk pool. And by risk pool, what I mean is, insurance companies have got to figure out how to balance the amount of money they take in versus the amount of money they put out. So I've said this to you guys before, right? The way these people make money is basically they take in all these premiums and they try to pay out as few expenses as they can. That's just the model of insurance. If you pay out more than you take in, you're out of business. They're not like the federal government and can print money. However, there's a problem when people take in the insurance premiums to provide coverage that is promised. And then when you get sick, they choose not to provide that coverage. One of the things that happens with this reform is the insurance companies can no longer kick you off the rolls when you get sick. They also can no longer provide lifetime caps on the amount of care you can get, right? So, for example, you're young and healthy, Illusion 22 right now, everything is all good. But God forbid, let's say someday you're married and your child gets sick or something like that, or your spouse gets sick, and all of a sudden it's a chronic ailment and your health premiums go, or at least your health expenses skyrocket. It's not just like, oh, I got a cold today and maybe I spent, I stubbed my toe the other day or whatever. I spent $200 in healthcare all year. You might have spent $200,000. And the insurance company comes and says, you know what? This lady has done $250,000 on healthcare. We don't even know why she's sick. Forget about it. We don't want to pay the money. We're cutting her off. With this new legislation, they can no longer do that. So in a nutshell, Illusion 22, you're good to go. You're not going to have anything change, but as your kids grow up until they're 26, when you have children, if you choose to, they can stay with you. And we will all wind up ultimately paying less for health care because we will now have a broader pool of people that are in the mix, both healthy and sick. And that can enable us to put some downward market pressure on the insurance market to make sure that we're fair. We're talking about health care. Y'all, I put out a call this week, and people said that this was the #1 issue they wanted to hear about. So we want to hear from you. 866-677-2496. What do you think about the healthcare reform? Good, bad, ugly, confused? Let us know how you think it affects you, or if you got questions on it. 866-677-2496. Keith, you are on the air. I see you like the legislation.
Yeah, actually, Derek, I think that the legislation, anybody who actually looks into it, and I listen to talk radio all the time, and of course this has been dominating the airwaves.
Word.
But I think the most interesting thing to me that I run across is that the Democrats have laid out this health care reform, which I think is an outstanding start. And
Yes.
I think that the Democrats have acknowledged that this is a great place to start. It's not perfect, and we will have to tweak it over time.
Yep.
But I'm absolutely flabbergasted at the Republican response to that. It's all horrible. Get rid of all of it. It's horrible. It'll
Yep.
just wreck us. And the Democrats have just seemed to really had a very positive message about it. This is not perfect,
Yep.
but it is a great start. Let's build on this. Let's make it better.
So, Keith,
And-
why do you
and
think the
Republicans
Republicans? Why do you think the Republicans have had such a stark and negative response?
Oh, well, I mean, that's just partisan politics. I find that, here's the thing about the Republicans versus Democrats, which I think is really fascinating. Republicans are known for getting what they want, the hardcore method. They'll push it through. They will use every tactic in the world to nail it down. And I think that's what we've seen here. They didn't like the fact that, a Democratic president has come in and it's taking on one of the largest pieces of legislation that's ever existed.
Yep.
I think there's probably 3 or 4 other pieces of legislation that even come close.
Yep.
And he's actually going to be successful with this. So how do you combat that? If you're a Republican and you want to get your little homies back in office again, you certainly aren't going to be going, this is okay, this is great. Yeah, they seem to be including us. Yeah, but, blah, blah, blah. No. What you do is you say it's all bad, it's all horrible. You get Rush Limbaugh, you get all these other people on board going, this is Armageddon. I think we heard the other day.
Armageddon is exactly what they said. And, it was so funny when I heard that because I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me that the world is going to come to an end because more people are going to be able to get health care? It was such a trip. And you know what the funny thing is? The strongest argument they've made has been that, well, this is, the country can't afford it. We can't afford the cost of this. And I'm like, you guys passed a multi-trillion-dollar tax cut for the wealthiest Americans. You started 2 wars and didn't fund them. And there was no question about the deficit then. Now, all of a sudden, when we're talking about how do we make sure that we reduce what is becoming the single largest government expenditure, or at least what has the potential to be the single thing that most throws off the government budget. When we're talking about healthcare costs, Medicare is the biggest line item in the federal debt by far. We're saying that we got to do this. And they're like, well, now all of a sudden it's a question of money. I think you're right, Keith. I think it is about politics. Yo, the rest of y'all, I want to hear from you. And I want to hear from some Republicans because I know you're out there and I know you're upset and I know you don't like this. But this is an experience. This show is one where we can all talk honestly about what we really believe. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-677-2496. This is the Derrick Ashong Experience. We'll be right back.
Looking at me. Look at that, look at how they're looking at me. Eyes all
Oprah Radio.
Please stand by.
You are listening to the Derrick Ashong Experience.
All right, you guys, we are back in the mix. I just got a tweet from IB Shorty on Twitter asking, how can I find you on Facebook? IB Shorty, you can find me at facebook.com/Derrick Ashong Experience. And those of you who'd like to watch on Ustream, ustream.tv/Derrick Ashong Experience, we are talking about healthcare. I am saying that this is a great thing. It's an historic moment. It is wonderful that this has passed. And like the vice president said, it's a big bleeping deal. What do y'all think? We want to hear directly from you. 866-677-2496. We know that some of you agree. We know that some of you don't. We want to hear from all of you. Jenny, you're on the air. What are your thoughts?
Hello. I work for a software development company, and
most of our employees are, making between $50,000 and $100,000 a year, and we supply health insurance.
Okay.
And we got
what part of the country are you in, Jenny?
We're in Northeast Ohio.
Okay, go ahead. Cool.
And so we got like a synopsis of the healthcare reform, and I think that the healthcare reform is great in idea. However, in the first couple of years, there is no requirement for people to get the health insurance. That comes later.
Yes.
So what's going to happen is immediately with some of the other changes, like no top limit on benefits and that kind of thing, it's going to increase the premiums, and people like us in my company are going to see an increase in premium.